They're stunned, not because they hurt you, but because they failed to control you. They expected their lies to fracture your confidence. Instead, those lies sharpened your awareness. They expected confusion. What they created was clarity. And nothing unsettles fragile egos more than realizing their weapons no longer work. They thought deception would knock you off balance. What it actually did was teach you where not to stand anymore. They planned chaos. You chose composure. And that quiet choice disrupted everything they thought they knew about power. They're disturbed by how little noise you made while understanding everything. They mistook your calm for blindness. They mistook your silence for ignorance. They mistook your restraint for weakness. But silence was never absence, it was observation. You didn't react because reaction was beneath you. You didn't confront because you didn't need proof. You already had certainty. And certainty doesn't argue. They're disarmed because their games never pulled you into emotional disorder. They manipulated situations hoping to provoke a response. They whispered stories, shifted narratives, planted confusion like seeds, and waited for you to spiral. But you didn't. You stood steady. You met manipulation with neutrality. You met betrayal with emotional distance. You met disrespect with internal withdrawal. And that terrified them, because manipulators only thrive when they feel you slipping. They expected anger. They expected heartbreak. They expected desperate questions, late-night explanations, dramatic reactions. Instead, they received something far colder: irrelevance. You processed their betrayal the way a disciplined mind processes bad weather. You acknowledged it. You adjusted your direction. You kept moving. No panic, no attachment, no emotional debt. And that outcome shattered the illusion of power they thought they had. They're confused by how consistently you remained yourself. They expected your character to erode under pressure, but you stayed focused. You stayed respectful. You stayed grounded. While they tried to fracture your inner world, you refined it. That level of internal stability exposes unstable people instantly. They're shaken because every attempt to control you only highlighted how uncontrollable you truly are. Your calm became the variable they couldn't calculate. Your restraint became the factor they couldn't manipulate. They relied on chaos. You relied on awareness. And awareness dismantles deception without lifting a finger. They're uncomfortable realizing that you knew long before they acted. You saw the shift in tone. You noticed the inconsistencies. You sensed the energy change before words ever confirmed it. But instead of reacting, you waited. You allowed them space to reveal who they really were. And they did, thoroughly. They thought your smile meant you didn't understand. What they failed to grasp is that sometimes a smile is not happiness, it's control. Control over emotion, control over timing, control over exit. You weren't clinging, you were concluding. They're disturbed because nothing they did altered your self-worth. Their actions never reached the core of who you are. You didn't internalize their betrayal. You didn't personalize their deception. You recognized it for what it was, a reflection of their limitations, not yours. That realization protected you. They expected retaliation. They expected exposure. They expected revenge. What they received was removal. And removal is the most severe consequence for people addicted to attention and influence. You didn't fight them. You didn't punish them. You simply made them irrelevant to your future. That silence now echoes louder than any confrontation ever could.
They're shocked because the structure they built only stood while you were present. The moment you stepped away, it collapsed. Their lies required your participation to remain believable. Your absence removed the foundation. Now they're left standing inside a story that no longer makes sense. They can't process how easily you detached, how clean the separation was, how little emotional residue remained. You treated betrayal like a transaction that no longer benefited you. No emotional bargaining, no dramatic negotiation, just closure through clarity. That efficiency unnerves people who rely on emotional chaos to feel powerful. They're unsettled by how light you became afterward. You didn't carry bitterness. You didn't carry resentment. You carried peace. And peace after betrayal feels insulting to those who expected you to suffer. They're disturbed because your strength was never loud, never aggressive, never performative. It was quiet, measured, intentional. And quiet strength terrifies people who need noise to feel important. They replay every interaction now, every smile, every pause, every moment you chose restraint. They're realizing, too late, that you were never behind. You were ahead and waiting. They're haunted by the truth that their actions defined them far more than they affected you. They thought betrayal would mark you permanently. Instead, it exposed their own character, and character is something no excuse can repair. They're disturbed because you didn't chase explanations, you didn't demand apologies, you didn't seek closure through conversation. You achieved closure internally, and internal closure cannot be negotiated. They expected dependency. They encountered independence. They expected emotional collapse. They witnessed emotional mastery. They expected pain. They witnessed evolution. Nothing destabilizes manipulative people more than realizing they never held the leverage they imagined. They hate that you outgrew them without effort, without drama, without announcement. You didn't force growth, you allowed it. And now you exist beyond their reach, naturally. They're stuck trying to pinpoint the exact moment you detached. They can't find it, because detachment wasn't sudden, it was gradual awareness, and awareness doesn't announce itself, it simply moves on. They're unsettled by how peaceful you became without them, as if their absence didn't create a void, but removed a burden. Your calm exposes the truth they didn't want to face. They were never the value, they were the weight. Your growth feels like a personal insult to their ego. Every improvement you make reminds them they misjudged you. They expected struggle. You demonstrated stability. They expected regret. You displayed relief. They expected longing. You displayed forward momentum. They can't accept that losing them didn't cost you anything, because deep down they know they needed you more than you ever needed them. You were the consistency, the depth, the emotional maturity, the grounding force. They were the variable. Now they sit with an uncomfortable realization. They didn't lose control over you. They never had it. You were never emotionally owned, never mentally dependent, never internally compromised. And that truth dismantles the narrative they built to protect their ego. They look at your happiness now and feel disoriented because it contradicts everything they told themselves about you. They labeled you weak, but you remained composed. They labeled you emotional, but you remained disciplined. They labeled you dependent, but you walked away without resistance. That contradiction eats at them. They thought they were the villain in your story. Now they realize they weren't even a chapter, just a lesson. And the most painful realization of all, you didn't win by defeating them. You won by outgrowing the game entirely. That's the kind of power they'll never understand. And that is why your silence still unsettles them.